Hi, everybody. It is Ashley here, and we are going to be getting started really soon with a very cool event. Lionel Garcia from Azamara and myself will be bringing you how to do virtual events. So we will get him here on board, and we'll get this going. All right, let's see. We're doing something new here, so bear with us. We're really excited that you guys are taking the opportunity to join us today for this event. So I am adding Lionel to join me here on Facebook. For those of you who are not able to watch us live, no worries. As you know, it lives here on Facebook. Hey, Lionel. How's it going? I was just explaining we're trying something new, so bear with us as we get the technology all set up. But I'm really excited because I think, not to toot our horns, but Lionel and I are on social media a lot. And we have been doing a lot with you guys to engage in different ways through the past, several years. But we wanted to try something new to bring you some more relevant information about virtual events. Because I don't know about you, Lionel, but they're not going away, right?
No, I don't.
Oh, I think we just lost Lionel. Let's see. See if he comes back on here. Try to add him back again.
Okay.
There we go.
Sorry about that, but you were asking, yeah, these live events or these virtual events are most definitely here to stay. I think this is the future, which is exciting and somewhat scary because it's unknown for a lot of people, but most definitely the virtual events are going to be the future. This is not even considered the new normal. It is going to be something that we're just going to roll with and continue to do.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, there's going to be opportunity to do hybrid events, right? So you do some in person when we're back to that point. You do still continue to do some virtually. So it's for sure not going away.
Right.
So we'll give it a few more minutes, I think, while we're waiting for people to jump on and join us. I see Cindy's here. So hi, Cindy. Thanks for joining.
Hey,
Just moving up
Cindy.
the comments so I can see. We really want this to be interactive too. So if you guys have comments or questions, feel free to post that throughout. As we're going through some of the information, we'll come back and answer as many questions as possible. And as I said, this is going to be recorded, obviously, because it's on Facebook. So we will make sure that it stays alive for a long time. And you can come back and watch it.
It's funny, actually, I was just thinking about how what we're going to talk about right now are things that we both did for this event. And so it's really kind of, it's neat, here we're being considered the experts or the teachers, but in reality, we're the student as well, and we're learning in this. So feel free, some of you are probably better at this than we are. So if there's something that we missed or something you want to add, go ahead and do so, because I think that's how we're all going to learn, and we could all just get better together.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I am constantly looking to learn and to improve and to do better. So, if maybe there's something that we've been doing, you and I, Lionel, that people hate. So we'd love to hear if you want us to change things up, or if you're like, hey, as an audience member from some of your videos or your interactions, it would be great if you did this instead of that. So I love that. So hi, Nicole. Hi, Brandy. Thanks for sharing comments already and jumping on here today. So, I know with live videos, it's a little bit weird because we got to wait a moment for everybody to kind of get through the technology and join us. So we'll give it a few more minutes, but I'm excited to go through all the stuff that we're going to talk about. What are you most excited to share today, Lionel?
I think, we put together this list of tips and tricks and strategies that I think will be helpful. And I'm excited to share that because, a lot of what we've talked about is that we get these requests, and a lot of the requests that we get are not completely filled or thought out. And so they come to us with this really great idea, which didn't really get the process of maybe developing a strategy behind it. And so then we spend some time in formulating that strategy, and then sometimes it's just not the right opportunity. So I'm excited that we get to kind of share some of the things to avoid, some of the things to do, and kind of have everyone on the same page, because I think as great of brands that we both are a part of, at the end of the day, there's other opportunities for them. And I love what we talked about in preparing for this. Sometimes they don't even have to use a supplier. They can do this on their own just to promote and plug their own business. What better way to separate themselves in the travel segment as the content provider?
Yeah, yeah. This is a little bit meta, isn't it? We're talking about virtual events by doing a virtual event. So we practice what we preach.
Yeah, I love it. I love it.
Yeah, preparation is, I'm excited to talk about that too, because, everybody prepares in different ways. And so we definitely want to take that into account and share some tips and practices. And again, we've been doing this ourselves for quite a while, so we know the pitfalls that we've run into. So we're excited to share some of the things to avoid so you don't have to fall into those pitfalls. So yeah, I think we have a lot of really great content to go through today. And I want to make sure that you all know, feel free to share. If it's comments, it's questions, if you have an idea and you want to like throw it out to this great hive mind that we're tapping into, feel free to do that. There is no judgment here. What might work for your area, your customers, or your product that you're pushing may not work for somebody else, and that's totally cool. And that's kind of what we want to share today, is some of the multiple ways that you can evaluate and look at the content, the format, the platform, the preparation that you can go through to make the event what you want it to be.
Plus, here we are in the travel segment, and that's really our specialty, something that we pride ourselves with and we love. But I know many of our travel partners out there have begun to moonlight as other professionals in other industries. And I think really this concept of virtual events, it can translate to multiple industries, not just the travel industry. So I think it can be beneficial for all the different channels that the people watching at home or in their car, or they shouldn't be watching if they're in their car, but wherever they're watching, they can really benefit from the information.
Yeah, that's a great point. It's really scalable. This whole information, whether you want to do it again with just a specific partner, or you want to set up a video series or a training series, if you want to do it for your side hustle or your main gig, it doesn't matter. This, we're bringing this information to you, and hopefully you would use it with Holland America Line and Azamara. But if you don't, you use it with other suppliers, that's totally cool too. What's the saying, Lionel? A good tide rises all ships. So
Yes.
if we're all putting out awesome events, then we all benefit from that as an industry.
100%. And, in preparing for this too, Ashley, we talked about how really we're in this business for our travel professionals. We've been working with the trade most of our entire travel careers. I know I have 19 years. I know you're quite seasoned as well in the industry. And what I have come to realize is if they still have a job, then we still have a job to do. So today they may not be selling our particular product or service, but tomorrow they may. And hopefully we could leave them with some knowledge and information that will set them up to benefit them in their business. And if that translates into our business, then fantastic. But really, we're doing this because we love you. We want to take care of you. We want to help you. And helping you will in turn help us.
I agree. So, okay, I'm tired of
you ready?
It up. Get into it. I'm ready to go.
Let's go.
So as we were planning through this information, we were trying to think about the easiest way to share it. And we have a bit of a I guess, an outline to go through of how we are going to prepare. And we really decided that sharing it in a chronological order makes a lot of sense. So you can start at square one, get all the way to the very end of the process, and have everything in place. So with that being said, I think we both agree, Lionel, that preparation is by far the most important part of doing a virtual event. It's where you're going to spend the most of your time and your effort. So how would you start out, or what would be your recommendations for starting out and looking at preparation?
So I think, understanding what the goal is of this event, whatever it may be. So I think setting goals would be tremendous, but maybe starting off by figuring out what kind of event are you looking to host? Is this going to be an information night or an information event? Is this going to be something on a specific destination or a specific supplier? Are you looking to do a cruise night? I have a partner that is doing a travel show where there's multiple suppliers attending. Is it a conference? Is it a simple meeting one-on-one? And based on what decision or concept or event, virtual event you're looking to create, then you get to set some of these goals. And these goals range from so many different things, like who you're trying to invite, what is the ultimate mission? Is it to get followers? Is it to get bookings? Is it to get leads? So what other things or goals can someone set, Ashley? What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, when you're talking about events, you need to figure out what you want to achieve, because that's going to be the message that you're sharing with your audience, right? And that could be to host a virtual event, like you were saying, Lionel, a cruise night. Your goal might be to get more bookings on your group that you have set up. It could be to raise the followers of your social media or to increase traffic to your website. It could also be setting yourself up as a subject matter expert. So if you want to be known as the Alaska cruise expert or the Europe destination specialist, just putting out content, whether that's a short presentation or it's just sharing some of your experiences, that type of event would be very different than a cruise night or very different than a virtual travel show, for instance. And so figuring out what you want to achieve with this information that you're sharing really lays the foundation for the rest of the preparation, for sure.
I think that also leads to the next thing. So based on what those goals are, you can uncover what's the best time or date to do this. Are you looking for a larger audience, a smaller audience? You don't really care about the audience. You're just trying to provide content. That could also factor into what time of day. Let's give it an example. If you're looking to target the young professional, maybe doing an event at 2 o'clock in the afternoon isn't the smartest thing to do. It might be something you do after work hours. But if you're looking to target a baby boomer or the retired audience, right, 2 o'clock in the afternoon might be perfect. It depends if it interferes with their pickleball tournament or not. But that those are things that are is valuable to know. So I would say that those things help, and then it leads to, do you want to have an offer? Do you want to create urgency? So goals are very important, and then that usually leads to the next thing. And I know, Ashley, I might have jumped ahead of here. If I did, feel free to cover anything I missed, but
I
go ahead.
actually wanted to just spend a little bit of
Yeah.
extra time talking about knowing when your audience wants to engage, because this is actually something that comes up. You guys might be surprised, from really large account partners that are coming to us as suppliers and saying, what are you finding works when you host a virtual event? When are you getting the best attendance? Some people think that a Tuesday at 10 a.m. works the best. Some people think that a 7 p.m. event works the best. And to your point, Lionel, it really depends on your audience. If your audience is working during the day, they're not hitting a 10 a.m. Event during a week. If you're looking for that baby boomer market, it's probably perfect for them and you're going to get a ton of attendance. But that also leads into really knowing what you want to present and who you want to present. So if you are looking to do like a partnership with a supplier, you probably wouldn't want to do certain brands that really focus on that millennial group or that young professional group during the week. Whereas a brand that really targets more to the baby boomer market would be perfect for that. So it's important to get that in line. And I would suggest, if you don't know, look at some of the posts that you have put out on social media and see which ones get the most engagement. When are people commenting back? Are they commenting immediately, or is it something where they are commenting later in the day? If you find that most of your comments are coming later in the day, that probably means most of your people are available then. So that's a good way. Or just ask, put out a poll. It's a great way to engage with your customers and your followers, to just ask, hey, when would be the best time for you to join me on a virtual event, so that you're setting it up for the best success. You're going to get the most attendance when you're hosting that.
I agree 100%. And that those things help so much. And again, it just goes back to when you're in that preparation stage, is figuring out what is your goal, what are you trying to achieve, because there's you will miss. I think it was said. I'm gonna butcher this saying, but you're gonna miss the target if you don't know what you're aiming for. So
Mm-hmm.
you got to have the target set to know what you're shooting for. So that's our recommendation, if you're not doing this today, then most definitely try to consider that for sure.
Yeah, because I know a little bit later we're going to talk about how to analyze the results of your event. And you can't analyze if you don't know what you're trying to achieve. So if you're trying to get, 20 more bookings on a trip, if you're trying to get 100 new followers, those are things that you can action. You can say, okay, I achieved this goal. But if you don't know what that goal is, then you have no idea whether it was successful or not.
Right. 100%.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things that I think will help in the preparation process too is choosing the right platform. And I think a platform is so important in today's world with so many different channels and opportunities. There's a number of different platforms. So we're not here to endorse any specific platform, even though we're currently using a specific platform. That doesn't necessarily mean that it is the best or the one that you should use. But I think understanding what the goals are can help you determine which is the best platform. And it was interesting in testing these different platforms out. I've uncovered, for example, that my Facebook rooms, I don't get as much engagement, even though I can see my customers face to face, which is what I like to be able to see and do. I wasn't getting as much reach, and my goal is to reach more people. So that's why I've chosen the platform of Facebook Live. But some of you feel good with IGTV and others. So actually, I think you had a lot that you wanted to share on this too.
It is interesting because I have been testing platforms for a while. I'm very much an advocate of let's throw something out and see what happens when we have new technologies that come online, or just to see if there's better ways we can engage. And when you and I think, talk about customers, we primarily talk about you guys, our travel partners, as customers. And so obviously engaging with you all is maybe different than how you're going to engage with your consumers. So first and foremost, just think about that. I too find that Facebook rooms are not as engaging as other ways to host events on Facebook. And again, that could just be because you guys are not that familiar with rooms yet, or people don't really utilize them. Your customers, though, might be really comfortable using Facebook rooms, especially during this past year. We've all had to learn new virtual platforms. We've become experts at Zoom and Teams and all of these virtual networking sites. And so your customers may be more comfortable with Zoom, for instance, because a lot of people are using that. So that's something important to keep in mind as well. And then going back to what your goals are going to kind of influence the platform as well. Lionel and I were talking about, if you wanted to be a subject matter expert, for instance, it might be better to share that information on like an IGTV, because it doesn't need to be interactive necessarily as far as having customers comment or ask questions in real time. You might want to see that after you post it. Facebook Live, I too love, because we get to see great comments like Brandy's. She said, it amazes me how often goals are skipped in the preparation process. And that's an interaction you can only get on Facebook Live, right? So your event type and platform is going to be driven by the content that you want to share. And think about how you can do hybrid events as well. So one of the things that I really have been trying to do more of is watch parties.
I was going to make sure, I was hoping you were going to cover that. Those are really cool.
Yeah, it's a really cool functionality that not a lot of people are utilizing, but I like to call it a semi-live event. So what happens is you and I are having this great conversation, right, Lionel? We have all these people making comments and liking things and viewing and jumping in and out of the video. However, we're also trying to concentrate on what we want to share in this conversation that we're having too. So with watch parties, what you can do is you can pre-record your presentation or something that you're doing with another partner, and then you can watch it with your audience. So it allows you to answer questions and focus on the comments at the same time that you're watching the content with them. So you can really focus 100% of your attention on that. And I think that's a cool format for certain types of events. Again, if you're doing something where you really want to concentrate, you think your audience is going to engage with questions or they're going to share information, and you want to make sure that you're acknowledging those comments, a watch party might be easier for you to do that than trying to do it live and do everything all at once. It is a little bit like juggling, right?
Yeah,
Right,
most definitely. But I also think the other thing about watch party that's kind of neat, and it might actually save a lot of maybe you still got to somewhat prepare this, but you can take something that a supplier is already doing and that they're sharing for consumers, and you could invite your customers to watch that event with you. And but you're now providing that content, and it's a customer that maybe, or an audience that maybe the supplier couldn't have reached without your help. So it's a really neat thing. I mean, for me, I really do think that you got to try them all. Give everything a
Mhm.
shot, see what works. Some things are going to work. I'm sure you've heard the saying, throw spaghetti on the wall and see what sticks. I think that's a matter of giving it a shot. And then, once you become better at it and more proficient, if you've created different channels and areas, there's services like StreamYard and others where you can actually, depending on your subscription level, you can actually broadcast to all the channels at one time and reach all your audiences. So there's so many different ways to do this. And we're not here to say use this one or use that one. We just wanted to kind of uncover, depending on what your needs are, your goals are, there might be a perfect platform for you.
Yeah, the reality is that every platform is perfect for your event, but it's got to be perfect for the perfect event, right? If you're doing an event for young professionals, they're probably most likely on Instagram, not Facebook. So to host a Facebook live event or a Facebook event is probably not going to tap into that market. So each platform is important and does a different thing and will satisfy a different need. So to Lionel's point, try everything. I normally wouldn't advocate a spaghetti on the wall situation, but in this case, it's actually perfect. And then the other thing I would say is consistency. If you're going to do Facebook because that's the platform your customers are on and that's the platform that's going to allow you to share the content the way you want to, then set it up so that it's the same day, same time, every single time that you present, and people get used to that. The very first few you do, you may not have a huge turnout, and that's because people are not prepared. They're not expecting it. So we're going to talk a little bit more about, hyping the event and promoting it, but make sure that you're hosting it consistently so that your people know every Tuesday at 2 o'clock, I'm going to have some kind of subject matter update from my awesome travel partner.
Yeah, I'm so with that. I love it. And these are fun. I mean, for us, our audience, most of our audience, you live on Facebook. So that's why this is where we're doing it. So, you know, check it out and try it. But I'm with you, Ashley. I think that's great. Another thing that we've talked about in the preparation is setting that realistic timeline.
Mhm.
Everything from how long is it going to take to prepare to when you should do the event, how much time should you dedicate to promoting the event. Again, that goes back to whatever your goals may be. So is there a silver bullet or something that you think works all the time, or what's your take on these timelines?
Yeah, I definitely want to get your feedback on this too, because I think
Okay.
it very much it varies. So I know you do different videos. You do them the same time every day, right? And
Yes.
and the same day every week. I kind of just do them as I feel like I have content to share, which may or may not work. Your way may or may not work. We're all just trying new things. But what I do timeline wise is I do plan out what kind of content I want to share. So I actually have post-its right here on my wall of all the different bits of information that I'm going to share at some point where it makes sense and it's appropriate. Um, when I actually put that out may vary. If I was better at that, which maybe I should be, I would know I'm going to be doing this every Wednesday at 11 o'clock, let's say. And so, timeline for me is preparing the content that I want to share. It's also preparing how I'm going to promote the event. And so I've already picked out my platform. I already know what kind of information I want to share. I already know what kind of engagement I'm looking for. And so then it's a matter of when I'm going to schedule it and how I'm going to let all of you know, or all of my customers know that that's happening. For me, I find that virtual events, people will commit to very last minute. So even with this, right, we were posting it a week in advance, 2 weeks in advance. We didn't really see a lot of engagement with it until I think a few days ago. I put a post up about 20 minutes before this just to remind everybody. So I think with virtual events, because people are not committed to, I have to get dressed, I have to get in my car, I have to go somewhere. And when you have that kind of a commitment, you plan further in advance, you have to clear your schedule. because it's virtually and people can be on their laptop or their tablet or, you know, wherever they might be in the house in their pajamas or dressed up or not, it's like, oh, hey, I'm available. Let me jump on this real quick, right? So I think with virtual events for me in the timeline planning portion really is how often am I going to remind people that this event is coming up to make sure that I have good engagement.
It's
So I
great. I think planning realistic timelines also depend on who's involved. So if you're going to involve a supplier or a co-host, you want to spend more time prepping both. And you know, one of the research that we did for this is you want to prepare for a virtual event the same way you would prepare for a live event or an in-person event. You know, you don't just automatically show up at the venue and say, okay, I'm here and hope that people come. It's not like the Field of Dreams. So if you build it, they come. No, you have to do something to make it happen. So everything from, do you create an invitation? You know, so it's funny, actually, I know sometimes you'll promote a live event that you're going to do. Other times you haven't.
Mhm.
Same thing with me. I've promoted some and others, I just do it on the fly. I show up. But what the viewer doesn't know is that we did a lot of planning beforehand. So for example, yesterday I had my sales call at home and I have my notes. These were the notes that I did, the outline that I followed to make sure that I stayed on track. You know, Ashley and I worked on this presentation for all of you, and we have notes. And you're not going to see the notes because we're looking at them. It's almost like a teleprompter, but we have our notes to guide us so that we make sure that we cover the points that we want to cover. We talked about when do we want to promote it and advertise it to all of you. We talked about what our expected results are. We talked about the content that we're looking to cover. So this is very important for you to know, and that's how you create that timeline. So for example, Ashley, if one of our customers called us, and when I say customers, we're talking about you, the travel professional, call us a week before to do a live event the next day, it's going to give us a reason to pause. It's not like we're going to say, yeah, we can't wait. There's going to be a lot of questions we want to ask, like, well, what's your following? How many people do you normally expect? What do you want to cover? So give us a little bit more time so that we could help strategize with you and so we could come up with what the goals are so we can make it mutually beneficial, because just being online to have two people talking or three or four people talking isn't the goal. The goal that we have in mind when you're calling us is to see success, and success for us means bookings or heads and beds in the simplest term. So that's just something to keep in mind when you're developing that realistic timeline.
Yeah, and you know, going back to this whole preparation idea, this is something that if you're looking to have a co-host, whether that's a supplier partner or that's one of your travelers that just got back from an awesome trip and you want them to share their experience, or whether you're presenting it on your own, there are a few things that you can have prepared ahead of time to present and propose this event to that co-host. So from the perspective of like a BDM or a supplier contact, as Lionel said, if you come to us with the information already ready at hand, we're going to know that you've done the preparation, that you know what's going on, that you have strategized and thought about this a little bit more. But it's also going to cut down on the back and forth, right? If a partner comes to me and says, okay, I know the purpose of this event is going to be to promote my group to Alaska, and I want to book 25 people from this event, and we're going to do it on this platform. It's going to be at this time. I'd like to do it in this format. That's going to help me be prepared so that I don't have to go back and say, okay, what about this? What about that? What about this? And then you have 100 emails going back and forth, right? So it just really streamlines the process if you're ready ahead of time, if you're making those proposals. Did we miss anything about the partners and the co-hosts?
No, I think that was pretty good. I mean, I think there's a lot that maybe even come out as repetitive just because so much of it is, listen, in delivering a presentation, sometimes it's not a bad thing to repeat yourself. And a lot of the things that we did talk about, we try to segment it in different categories, but we found that a lot of it sometimes is the same as this part or that part, and it could really fall into the different categories. The next thing that kind of fits into this timeline we were mentioning is engaging the audience well before the event. We talked about building either like an event page or an event post. I've seen the idea of maybe creating a video to introduce the event, to kind of welcome or engage the customer to, or the audience to participate. You know, that was something we didn't do for this one. We didn't do a video. I did find a really cute little picture to use to engage with all of you before the event. But you know, it's interesting. It just depends what you want to do. Another idea could be create an Eventbrite. You know, because it's a virtual event, you can. This is relatively free. Anyone can attend, but sometimes it's nice to know who's interested. And just the simple act of somebody clicking, going, or interested almost makes them feel obligated to attend. And if they don't attend, they have that guilt or that FOMO. And for you, what it can help you do is now you know who wanted to attend, so you could even send them the recording afterwards, and which could lead to that follow-up that we're going to cover here in a little bit. But I think engaging with the audience well before the event still also falls in that preparation stage, and something that can really help build the reputation and the engagement with your virtual event.
Yeah, hyping it up is so important. I have actually done a video to introduce a video before,
Very
and it
cool.
felt really weird, but I was like, I know if I just throw this out here, nobody's gonna see it, so I'm gonna do a hype video about the video I'm gonna do.
Nice.
And so it's just a fun and interactive way. I also use stories in Facebook a lot because it's a great way to kind of capture people's attention. If you see those pink dots at the top, you know you want to click on it and see why people are live or what video they posted. So it's another way to get interest and eyeballs on your event. And I would also say too, you know, customize all the tools that are out there. If you're working on a group to grease, create a group page in Facebook and make sure that it has grease pictures, and make sure that you're posting Greek content, and then have this event set up and make sure that your event emulates Greece. So whether your background has, you know, Greek columns, or you have blue and white on, or whatever that looks like, think about how you can engage your audience through all the senses, because it is virtual, right? You're not sitting there in front of them. Unless you're doing like a Zoom where you're seeing everybody, you may not even be able to see the engagement that you're getting. So you've got to think about how you're going to engage the audience. And one of the ways to do that through the senses of sight is to make sure that everything you're putting out reinforces the destination or the goals that you're trying to achieve.
You know, thinking of what you just said, I got excited because Greece is one of my favorite destinations. And I started thinking, how cool would it be if the invitation for a Greek night, whatever it may be, you list something like pick your favorite Greek wine, or make sure to bring some olives or some olive oil and some bread, or Mythos beer. That's like my favorite beer. So good. And what's great is, you know, they're going to be, ideally, they'll play along with you, right? And so you'll be participating in that. And now you're engaging even that sense of taste, which is one that you can't do because we can't reach through the screen and hand you something, but they are doing the same at home or wherever they are. So it really adds to that element of engagement and almost putting them there and wherever there may be.
Yeah. And I think this leads us into our next area that we really want to focus on. And Brandy actually had a question on, not a question so much as a comment about content, how content can be difficult to figure out. So let's talk a little bit about content. One of the big things I think when it comes to virtual events is knowing you don't have an audience in front of you. So Lionel and I, as we were preparing, we were talking about how when we go and do presentations with partners, you're sitting in front of, or you're standing in front of people, and you can see when you're presenting something and they're engaged and they're excited and they're energized, like you just feel that engagement from the audience. Or on the flip side, if it's not hitting for some reason, you're also feeling that. With certain platforms, you're going to lose that, right? You can't see the audience themselves. And so when it comes to content, you have to think about different ways to engage. So I'd love to kick it off to you, Lionel, to talk about different ways to start planning out the content, or different kinds of content we can incorporate.
No, I love it. And I think that's, content is so relevant. And I think that's why sometimes, especially if you're getting started, it won't hurt to partner with somebody, because a lot of times that person you're partnering with, be a destination expert or be it the supplier that you wanted to work with, they already have some content built in. So that might make it easier. Obviously, keeping the goal that you have in mind of the event can help that co-host or co-presenter in customizing the content for you. But it was interesting. Some of the things, I already talked about this video, but the content doesn't always have to be the copy or the text or the images discussed. Sometimes it could also be what the viewer is watching. So for example, something that we've talked about and I've had to learn the hard way is when we're doing these videos, put the camera in horizontal mode, because that way we don't get the black bars on the end, because I've done it vertical and it looks really cool on my phone because my phone has the big screen. But when you watch it, it's really small. So it is something simple like that, like recording it or sharing the video in the horizontal mode or landscape mode versus the portrait mode. I think, making also the content timely, again, going back to what your goals are. If you're looking to inspire, motivate, then provide information that's inspiring and motivating. Don't talk about the ugly things about life, because you could easily fill a whole presentation about everything that's wrong with the world. So focus on the good. If you're looking to make bookings, then you might want to have an offer as part of your content and some form of call to action. I think that's going to be it. And then keep in mind too, whatever your goal is, if your goal is for the content or your video or event to live forever or to live for a while, don't have something that's expiring tomorrow, because that's just going to create a nightmare for you, because then they're going to call you a week from now asking for whatever you had on your video, and it's not going to work. So again, that always goes back to that preparation. If you prepare properly, then you could also customize the content that you're looking to achieve.
Yeah, I love that. And actually, Rachel posted a comment that's perfect. She said she's been doing some different parties lately, and they'll start out with bingo. So it's a different way to engage with the audience. And think of outside of the PowerPoint. People don't want to come and listen to a PowerPoint presentation. They want to be engaged, and you need to add value. Whatever your virtual event is about, whether it's making bookings, promoting a departure that you have, becoming a subject expert, it has to add value to give people the sense that they didn't waste their time coming to watch this, right? And the way that you're going to add value is by giving them information they didn't have before, but doing it in a way that they will receive, which means it has to be engaging. And you can engage by utilizing the senses. So to your point, Lionel, prepare them with coming to this virtual event with their beer or their sampling. Do a wine tasting and talk about a destination. That's a great way to do a virtual event. Incorporate games, incorporate polls, incorporate the comments. Make sure you're addressing those and you're answering questions as you go through the presentation so it feels engaging. But also think about how you can pull information from your audience members if it does seem one-sided. If you feel like you're talking the whole time and you're not getting anything back, then you've lacked the engagement component. And so think about that as you're planning out your content.
Yeah, a really fun way that people are engaging too is they're playing games. There's a great application called Cahoots, and a lot of suppliers and travel agents, travel advisors are incorporating the game of Cahoots into their presentations. It's a great way. I was just part of a presentation that one of our colleagues put together. We each were tasked with doing a virtual event to ourselves. It was kind of neat. And she did a scavenger hunt where she had a list of items that we had to get in our home. And it was just fun because, yeah, we're not watching them, but we're playing along. And it had us paying attention. So I think that's important. And then one thing that I found that sometimes happens, especially if we're not with a co-host, if we're doing this on our own, which, actually I know both of us do lives, sometimes we're on for a few minutes and there's no one watching. Sometimes there's 3, 4, 5 people watching, and we'll ask a question and no one responds. And it's like, okay, this is awkward. But what I've learned is that a lot of times, if I give enough time for that silence, number one, it can add an impact to the question that I presented. And or number two, it can give the viewer an opportunity to respond. But sometimes it takes a while to type something in, right? Especially if we're not in a room where we can see them right away. It takes a while to respond. So don't be afraid. And another really easy way to engage that I've learned is working. We did this on one of my recent webinars, is we asked them to rate for example, in our case, we asked them to rate their knowledge with Azamara 1 to 10 and just type the number 1 or 10, depending on their knowledge, 1 being very little, 10 being the most. And so many people responded. It was awesome that had we asked the question, what's your familiarity with Azamara? I don't think anyone would have answered because it would have sounded like a rhetorical question. So I think those are just some ideas on how you can continue that interaction when you're in that content phase.
I agree. I agree. One other idea that I wanted to share, something that we've incorporated recently here, is a choose your own adventure presentation. So instead of just getting up and saying, okay, here's our departure to Alaska. We're going to board the ship in Vancouver, and then we're going to sail here, and then we're going to do this, and we're going to do this, and da 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 da. Do a choose your own adventure. So how are we going to get there? Okay, whatever way you want to pick, you could fly, you could drive, you could teleport if we were in the future. It's virtual, so who cares? We can get there however we want. And then give people time to respond. Say, oh, I'm going to teleport, or I'm going to drive from, Idaho. It would be so cool. And you can let people choose. Once you get on the ship, we have all these dining options. Let me tell you about them. Where are we going to have dinner tonight? Let everybody put in where they want to have dinner. Oh, tomorrow in Skagway, we have all these shore excursion options. What shore excursion do you want to do? And let everybody kind of choose what they would want to do. And it's a really fun, engaging way to interact with your audience without just presenting a day-by-day itinerary, which can get a little bit not boring, but a little bit
well, it's fun because it almost puts them in the experience, right?
Right.
And let's face it, a lot of Americans have not traveled in the last year. I think this month or this week we celebrated, that's a terrible word, but a year of this nightmare. And so, yeah, they haven't traveled. And so giving them the opportunity to dream, be it their first experience in that destination or their first cruise experience, is awesome. And if they've already done those things, now you're just having them retrace their steps of all the fond memories they've had. And I'm sure they're gonna want to do it again. So what a great way to already kind of prime the pump, if you will, because now they're excited and they're really motivated. So I love that idea, Ashley.
And anticipation is the best part of vacation anyway. So, getting people anticipating when they can travel again is just going to make selling so much easier. And then before we move on to kind of wrapping this up and analyzing, which I think is a really important part of virtual events, I would just recommend practice. Whether it's just you presenting, whether you have a co-host, if you want to do a dry run, if you want to do a full rehearsal, say it out loud to yourself, even if you're in a room, you want to present it to a mirror. Practice is so important because confidence can be sensed by your audience. If you don't feel like you know what you're doing, if you don't feel prepared, then the audience will receive that and your information may not connect like you want to. And the only way you can get confidence is by preparing and practicing. So don't feel stupid sitting in your room talking to yourself. Practice.
I agree. And in that practice, then you could really build that outline, right? So you're going to have that beginning, you're going to have that middle, you're going to have that end. I think that also then allows you to incorporate whatever your goal or the outcome that you're looking to get from the audience. You get to kind of filter that in at the different stages, the beginning, the middle, and the end. So that way the results are then going to be fruitful, or they should be fruitful if you're able to practice it and put it in versus just going ad hoc and hoping that your point came across of what your anticipated goal was going to be.
Yeah, you have to tell people multiple times, and we've even talked about it already today. Repetition is incredibly important. Know what you want your audience to take away. Tell them what you want them to take away. Remind them again that you want them to take this away at the very end, and then follow up to make sure that they took that information away. It's so important.
I'm just going to remind all of you, obviously, what we're trying to tell you, if you haven't picked this up, I'm just going to be blunt. You need to do some virtual events. Get social and do some virtual events. Hopefully, you could choose one of us or both of us, but you have to do some virtual events. So there's our plug in almost toward the end. We'll do it again at the end.
Yes, and then we'll follow up to make sure that you got that information. If we're doing a good job, right? What other kind of analysis, Lionel, do you think is important to decide whether your event was successful or not?
Well, it's the analysis is going to come into what you want to get out of the event. So if If you wanted leads, well, it depends on how many leads you get. If you wanted to get more followers or subscribers to your channel, depends on how many you got for that. So I think that's really important. But here's the opportunity. We're going to talk about, or I'm going to lead more toward what it is that we do when we get involved. We're about trying to make some sales, right? We're trying to help that travel partner build a client base around our particular product and help them seal the deal. So there's usually a call to action involved in all that. So what do we do? Well, here's the thing. If we do the event and the travel partner does nothing after the event, then if there's any success, it's by darn luck. And what we know is that success doesn't happen by chance. Success happens because you have a plan, because you have a target, because you aim, you shoot, you fire, you get what you're looking for. So, for example, when people RSVP to that event, now you have their database and you have their contact information. You could follow up. As you're discussing, you're going to get comments. You need to be following up on those comments. So, actually, perfect example, when we do a live, we don't just let people comment and leave it alone. No, we address the comments and we follow up with them. Same exact thing needs to happen when we do one of these things. So I think it comes down to understanding what the goal was or what the ultimate mission was that you're trying to achieve with the event, but then analyzing the success based on that. But one of the critical pieces is following up on the leads. And actually, we talked about this too. We get trained, so we get so busy sometimes with the phone ringing, which doesn't happen a lot, but if the phone rings, that's something we get used to. Just pick up the phone and take the call. But have you ever thought about dialing out? Because that could be just as valuable, because what happened is the person reached out via social media, be it the channel that you did the event, but they didn't call you. That doesn't mean they're not interested. So now the opportunity falls on you, Mr. and Mrs. Travel Partner, to pick up the phone, call. And Facebook has this great application. Almost everybody now has Facebook Messenger. There's a little phone button on the top. It's awesome. Click it. You don't even need to have their number, and you've reached them, wherever it is that they are in the world. So I think that's just my maybe long-winded way of talking about analyzing success.
No, I think it's really important. Follow up, I think we all agree, is really important, but how you do it is just as important as doing it at all. And I think Facebook Messenger is a great tool. I would also encourage you to use video when you follow up. If you're not making a phone call or even writing a letter, I know it sounds really like antiquated, sending a card. People are just craving engagement right now. They're craving acknowledgement. We've all been kind of isolated in our little bubbles for the last year. And so they just want to feel in touch with other human beings. And that's your opportunity to make that connection. And you're going to have warm leads, whether it's people interested in going to your event that couldn't come. You're going to target them with a message of, hey, sorry we missed you, but here's the recording for you to check out. I think you would really be interested in this because I know you've said you wanted to go to Greece. Whether it's the people who attended and just thank them for their time and the effort that they made to be on your event. And then for those that you didn't hear from either way, reach out and say, hey, I thought you'd be interested in this because you've expressed interest in this place. So let me know how we can connect and talk more about what you want to achieve with your next vacation. So there are 3 different kinds of follow-ups you can certainly do with virtual events, and whatever the format is, I think it's great. Even if your customer that you reach out to doesn't want to be on video, if you're on video, it makes a huge difference because they feel more responsible to respond to you, right?
Two things to follow up on what you said that I've done that I think is great. Sometimes I call and I leave a message, and then I'll follow up with a Zoom recorded message. So I'll record myself leaving a welcome or something to them. And then now, one of the other things I've been doing is, because if you did an RSVP list and you know who's coming or who wanted to attend, you could, what I've done is I could send, depending on the platform we use, who RSVP but didn't attend. So I've actually responded back to those people as, oh, darn, in the subject line, you missed the webinar yesterday, right? And then I say, sorry you missed it. I know things get chaotic and busy. This is the world we live in. Here's the recording. Here's the offer. Feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions. And it's just a really fun way to engage and to play along. because if you've ever received one of those messages from me, it's not me trying to guilt you. It's just me making sure that you get the information.
It's a little bit you trying to guilt them, right?
Okay, fine, fine.
Sometimes selling is guilting. I mean,
Yeah.
that's just the nature of the beast. But I think a lot of the things that you and I do as supplier partners can certainly translate for you all individually. And whether you want to do that in coordination with a supplier or you're comfortable doing it on your own, I do think it's important to reemphasize that the more you do on your own, the more that you certainly incorporate videos from supplier partners, but the more that you can present as your business makes more of a connection and an impact between your customer and your business versus your customer and the supplier directly. So just kind of think about that and not necessarily falling back because you're like, oh, I don't present, or that's not what I do, or I'm not good in front of an audience, I'm not good doing these kinds of things. Practice. We have lots of time right now. So practice your presentation skills and feel free to reach out to us for tips and tricks as well. You know, we do a lot of presentations and we're happy to share what we know works and what we know doesn't work. What I've seen some really, really terrible presentations over the years at different events, right?
Yes, 100%. But I think we're two spokespersons for this industry for all of you. But I'll tell you, I think if there's a BDM in that you feel comfortable with, feel free to reach out to him or her. We all want you to succeed because again, without you, we don't have a job to do. So please, you reach out to us. If you feel good with either of us, fine, come on. But if you don't, you rather go to someone else, our feelings aren't hurt. We want you to be successful and find it easy to do business with in this environment that we're in. And I think, like we talked at the beginning, this environment isn't going anywhere. Even if tomorrow the magic fairy waves away the virus, guess what, guys? These events have become a new way to connect and engage. People feel comfortable with it. It's working. If you don't believe me, check it out. Suppliers are already doing it. Heck, we've even recorded virtual ship tours where now you can do a ship inspection without even getting to the ship. That's a shame because the lunch is the best part of the virtual ship tour. But still, this is the world and the new environment. So the real environment today. So take advantage of these tips, and I'm glad I was able to do this with you, Ashley. Thank you for inviting me to be a part of this.
No, I'm really excited that we were able to do this too. And to your point, I think virtual events, they satisfy a need for people that in-person events never will. Like, I don't want to get dressed and go and listen to a presentation about something, but I'll watch it, later with my husband between Netflix episodes. So it gives you a flexibility to reach a completely new audience, which that's never going to go away, right?
Right.
And hopefully what we've shared today has enlightened. If you're doing virtual events, maybe it's going to help you kind of ratchet it up and up level those a little bit. If you're not doing them, I saw Cindy said, I know I need to do them, I just need to do it. Just do it. Just get out there, throw one out there, get it under your belt. You're going to learn from every single thing that you try. So there is no failure in this. There's just trying things, tweaking them, and making it better for the next time. So don't feel like you're going to put something together and it has to be 100% perfect. It never will be. It never will be. I've never done a video that's been 100% perfect.
Yeah, it's so true. Even with this one, I got disconnected right in the first 2 minutes. So
Right.
anything can go wrong, and that's okay. You just learn and keep improving. So
Yeah,
the goal is to be better than you were yesterday. That's the goal. And if you live by that or work toward that, I think you'll be successful in a lot of things, not just your business.
For sure, for sure. So we have, I think, covered everything. Did we miss anything, Lionel? We
No,
probably did, but
but I think it delivered exactly how it needed to. And so I can't see the questions that have come in, but I think you've brought up the ones that we needed to cover. So
yep, we've been kind of addressing them as they come in. Obviously, if you guys continue to have questions after you watch this again, or if you want to come back and revisit it, we would encourage you to do that. We will continue to monitor the chat on this. If you are watching this later, you obviously got it through the event, but Lionel and I will be sharing the recording in multiple formats and places. So you are not going to miss out on this. If you have additional questions, feel free to continue to post those. but being respectful of everybody's time, we will sign off, I think. And I was so excited to be able to do this with you, Lionel. I'm
So
very,
yeah.
very excited for everybody who joined us live and who's going to watch this later. Thank you for supporting us and helping support you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ashley. Thank you all for watching as well. I'm so excited. And just to do what we practiced earlier, please follow our Facebook Lives. Ashley has her aha tips of the week. I have my sales call at home. And support us. We'll continue to support you. And please feel free to connect with us any way you feel comfortable. We're here. Thanks.
Thank you. Bye, guys.